There's a powerful truth about attraction that most men never fully understand, and it quietly shapes the outcome of almost every interaction they have. It's not about having more money. It's not about listing achievements. It's not even about being the most confident or entertaining person in the room. Because if those things were enough, every successful man would effortlessly build deep, meaningful connections. But that's not what happens in reality. What truly captures a woman's attention is something far more subtle and far more rare. It's not about being noticed. It's about making her feel genuinely understood. Think about the world she experiences every day. She receives attention regularly. People compliment her appearance, her style, the way she presents herself. Conversations often stay on the surface, predictable, repetitive, and easy to forget. But how often does someone make her pause? How often does someone ask something that makes her think, reflect, and feel something real? That moment, when she stops, processes, and responds with something deeper than usual, that's where true intrigue begins. Because attraction isn't created through performance, it's created through presence. And the man who understands this doesn't try to impress her. He creates an experience she doesn't expect, but can't ignore. Most men don't struggle because they lack confidence, intelligence, or ambition. They struggle because they approach conversations the same way everyone else does, without even realizing it. Think about how most interactions begin. You meet someone new, and within minutes, the conversation follows a familiar script. What do you do? Where are you from? How was your day? There's nothing wrong with these questions, but they rarely lead anywhere meaningful. They keep the conversation safe, predictable, and forgettable. And that's where the real problem begins. Because when a conversation feels like every other conversation she's had before, there's no reason for her to remember it, or you. Most men assume they need to stand out by talking more, being funnier, or trying harder to impress. So they share stories, highlight achievements, or try to present the best version of themselves. But from her perspective, it often feels like a performance. And performances create distance, not connection. Instead of building something real, they reinforce a pattern she's already seen countless times: polished, surface level interactions that don't leave any lasting impression. What's missing isn't effort, it's depth. The truth is, people don't connect because someone talks more or tries harder. They connect because something about the interaction feels different, more genuine, more engaging, more real. And that difference doesn't come from what you say about yourself. It comes from how you make her feel when she's talking about herself. That's the shift most men never make, and the reason they remain forgettable. Attraction isn't as simple as most people think. It doesn't operate on just one level. It works on two at the same time: the physical and the psychological. Most men focus almost entirely on the physical side. They work on their appearance, their style, their body language, and their confidence. And while those things can create initial interest, they rarely sustain it. Because what truly holds attention over time is psychological. This is where real connection begins. A woman doesn't become deeply interested simply because a man looks good or speaks well. She becomes interested when she feels something different in his presence, something she doesn't experience with most people. She feels comfortable, she feels understood, she feels mentally engaged, and most importantly, she feels safe enough to be herself. That sense of emotional safety is powerful. It allows her to drop the surface level version of herself that she shows the world and reveal something more real. At the same time, curiosity starts to build. She begins to wonder about you, not because you've told her everything, but because you haven't. There's a sense of depth, of calm confidence, of something beneath the surface that she wants to explore. This is where many men get it wrong. They believe attraction grows by talking more about themselves, by proving their value, or by trying to impress. But in reality, attraction grows in the space you create, not the words you fill it with. When she feels free to express herself, when the conversation feels natural and meaningful, when she leaves the interaction feeling slightly different than before, that's when attraction begins to deepen. Not loudly, but quietly and powerfully. Most conversations don't fail because people have nothing to say. They fail because nothing meaningful is being explored. Surface level questions lead to surface level answers, and surface level answers create interactions that feel polite, but ultimately forgettable. This is where thoughtful questions change everything. A powerful question doesn't just keep a conversation going, it shifts the entire dynamic of the interaction. It signals that you're not there to follow the usual script. It shows that you're present, aware, and genuinely interested. And most importantly, it invites her to step out of autopilot. Think about how many times she's been asked the same predictable questions. Over time, people develop automatic responses, answers they give without thinking, simply because they've said them so many times before. But when you ask something unexpected, something that requires reflection, she pauses, and that pause is where connection begins. Because in that moment, she's no longer responding out of habit. She's engaging with you consciously. She's thinking, feeling, processing, and without realizing it, she starts associating that experience with you. But there's an important distinction to understand. You're not asking questions to impress her. You're asking to understand her. That intention changes your tone, your energy, and your presence. It removes pressure and replaces it with curiosity, and people can feel the difference. When a question comes from genuine interest, it doesn't feel intrusive. It feels refreshing. It feels rare. And in a world full of predictable conversations, rare is what gets remembered. This question opens the door to something most conversations never reach: personal evolution. Instead of focusing on who she is on the surface, you're inviting her to reflect on how she has changed over time. It naturally leads to stories about life experiences, lessons learned, and moments that shaped her perspective. It also shows that you value growth, not perfection. When she answers, don't rush to respond. Let there be a brief pause. That silence communicates that you're actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak. And in that space, the conversation begins to feel more real, more thoughtful, and far more memorable. This question moves the conversation away from roles and expectations and toward authenticity. People spend much of their time adapting to situations, work, social settings, responsibilities. But this question brings her back to moments where she feels natural, free, and fully herself. Her answer might be simple or deeply personal: quiet mornings, creative work, meaningful conversations, or time alone. Whatever she shares, it reveals what grounds her. And as she expresses that, she begins to associate you with that feeling of being real, something she doesn't experience often. Question 3. Hidden Dreams, 130 words. If nothing held you back, no fear, no judgment, what would you be doing right now? This is a powerful question because it removes limitations. It gives her permission to think beyond reality and step into possibility. Often people carry dreams they rarely express, either because they feel unrealistic or because they're afraid of being judged. This question creates a space where those thoughts can finally be spoken. As she shares, you'll notice a shift in her energy. There's often excitement, curiosity, even a sense of relief. That emotional openness creates connection, because in that moment, she's not just having a conversation, she's experiencing freedom. This question explores something deeper: her sense of self-worth. It naturally brings out her beliefs about relationships, respect, and emotional expectations. Her answer may reflect past experiences, lessons learned, or standards she has developed over time. This isn't a question to rush. Give her space to think. Let the silence exist without trying to fill it. When she answers, listen carefully, not just to her words, but to the meaning behind them, because what she shares here tells you how she sees herself and what she's truly looking for in someone else. This is where the conversation becomes genuinely personal. Everyone has a part of themselves they feel is misunderstood, something others overlook or misinterpret. When you ask this question, you're giving her an opportunity to express that part openly. And when she does, it requires trust. Your role here isn't to analyze or fix anything, it's simply to listen and acknowledge. Because when someone feels heard in a way they're not used to, it leaves a lasting impression. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? This question connects her past with her present. It invites reflection on experiences, mistakes, growth, and the lessons that shaped who she is today. Her answer may carry emotion, sometimes light, sometimes serious, but it always reveals depth. It shows how she thinks, what she values, and how she has evolved. And as she shares, you gain insight into her journey, not just the highlights, but the meaning behind them. That kind of understanding creates a connection most conversations never reach. This question moves into a more philosophical space. It uncovers what truly matters to her, what she's striving for, what she wants to protect, and how she defines a fulfilling life. For some, freedom might mean independence. For others, it could mean peace, stability, or the ability to express themselves without fear. There's no right answer, and that's what makes it powerful, because her response reflects her inner world. And when you understand how someone defines freedom, you begin to understand what drives them at their core. Knowing the right questions is powerful, but how you ask them is what truly makes the difference. Delivery matters more than the words themselves. If your tone feels rushed, forced, or overly calculated, even the best questions can lose their impact. But when asked with calm confidence and genuine curiosity, they create a completely different experience. Start by slowing down. Speak clearly, but without urgency. Let your voice carry a relaxed and natural rhythm. This signals that you're comfortable, present, and not trying to prove anything. Maintain soft, steady eye contact. Not intense, not overwhelming, just enough to show that you're engaged. When she answers, don't interrupt. Let her finish. Let the silence exist for a moment after she speaks. That pause shows respect and gives her space to express herself more fully. Most importantly, listen with intention, not to reply, but to understand. Avoid turning the conversation back to yourself too quickly. Stay with her perspective. Ask a gentle follow-up if it feels natural, but don't overdo it. Because the goal isn't to ask all 7 questions like a checklist. The goal is to create a moment that feels real. And when your presence aligns with your words, that's exactly what happens. Attraction isn't built the way most people think it is. It doesn't come from perfectly chosen words, impressive achievements, or trying to present an ideal version of yourself. Those things might create attention for a moment, but they don't create something lasting. What truly stays with someone is how you made them feel. And in a world where most interactions are rushed, surface level, and predictable, one feeling stands out above all: being genuinely understood. When a woman feels that you're not trying to impress her, when she senses that you're not performing or seeking approval, when she realizes that you're actually listening, present, and engaged, something shifts. She relaxes, her guard lowers, and she begins to show parts of herself she doesn't usually reveal. That's where real connection begins, not in the obvious moments, but in the quiet ones, the pauses, the reflections, the thoughts she didn't expect to share. And without realizing it, she starts associating that experience with you. You become more than just another interaction. You become someone who made her feel different. And that difference is what creates curiosity. It's what keeps you in her thoughts long after the conversation ends. Because attraction, at its core, isn't about being impressive, it's about being rare. And the rarest thing today is someone who truly understands. If there's one idea to take from all of this, let it be simple. Stop trying to impress and start trying to understand. Because the men who leave the strongest impressions aren't the ones who say the most or try the hardest. They're the ones who create a space where something real can happen. You don't need perfect lines. You don't need a rehearsed personality. You just need presence, curiosity, and the willingness to listen. When you shift your focus from proving yourself to understanding someone else, everything changes. Conversations become more natural. Connections feel more genuine. And the impact you leave becomes lasting. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these questions stood out to you the most? Was there one that made you think differently, or one you'd actually use in a real conversation? Share it in the comments below. And if you want more insights on psychology, connection, and meaningful communication, make sure to subscribe and stay connected, because this is just the beginning, and there's much more to explore.